Welcome everybody to the Alberta Pulse Growers Annual General Meeting. My name is Leanne Fishbook. I'm the Executive Director of the organization, and I'm just going to take a couple minutes to sort of outline things on how we're going to move forward with the format of this particular meeting today. So we're holding, obviously, the meeting today here at Crossroads, Alberta's Crop Conference, and I'm really happy to say it's 10:30 start time. If you were at our meeting last year, we had a super early meeting at 7:30 last year in the room across the hall. So thank goodness, 10:30 a.m. And I hope you all managed to have your coffee filled and are ready to go today. So if you are an eligible producer and you are attending virtually, we ask you to pre-register and allow us to confirm your availability to vote, and you will be voting online. So we do have a number of people who will be online. If you're attending in person, you'll have been provided with a voting card, and your votes will be calculated together with the online votes to make the total vote for the organization during any of our motions. Guests registered separately, and as Diane mentioned at this meeting, do not hold voting rights at the AGM. For all online participants, we are using Zoom as our meeting platform. And Kiwi Productions, back at the back corner, thank you very much for assisting us today with our technology and broadcast of our meeting. And also is conducting voting electronically as a third party for our system. We are recording the meeting, and we'll be able to share that with everybody later on our website. At times, we'll open the floor for questions. So if you're in person, please proceed to the microphones that are strategically placed if you have a question that you'd like to ask. And also, once you are recognized, please introduce yourself and then ask your question. And if you're online, you can ask the question in the question answer function in the chat at the screen at any time. We also have staff available to assist. Due to time constraints, we may not get to all the questions, but feel free to contact us after the meeting if you need more information, have further questions. Our representatives are going to be here for the duration of the whole meetings for Crossroads. So virtual attendance, just to let you know, there was an email directing you how to vote plus materials for the meeting today. You can find those materials under the website crossroadscropconference.ca under the Alberta Pulse Growers menu, and a test question was sent yesterday. If you have not tried to answer a test question, please do it now virtually. So this was our test question. You can see in 2024-25, APG recognized and celebrated how many years as a crop commission in Alberta? So the answer options are 10 years, 25 years, 50 years, or 35 years. And we'll just check with Kiwi for voting if people are able to vote and put their answer in. And then I will, yeah, okay, I got thumbs up back there. The answer for that obviously is 35 years. So if you were here 7:30 last year, I think we wrapped up at 8:30, and there was cake because you always want to have cake to celebrate something at 8:30 in the morning. So that was last year. Thank you to those who voted online. And as you saw, like as you know, incorporating an online vote as well as an in-room vote, there will be a slight delay to get the calculation of numbers organized. But we'll conclude the vote when we have over 50% of the eligible voters who have responded. So in addition, this year, there's something new with respect to our AGM. We had a change in our number for quorum. So in previous years, it has been 40. We are down to 30. That was approved and moved forward and has been adopted into our bylaws. So I'm going to ask one of my staff members at the back, who is acting as the VOG, to give me a number for our meeting attendance.
Good morning. We have 67 eligible voters in the room and 2 online.
Fantastic. Excellent. So as you can see, if 30 is our number for the AGM for quorum, we have achieved quorum, and I can now turn the meeting over to our chair, Mr. Shane Stridehorst. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leanne. Good morning, everyone. My name is Shane Stridehorst. I'm chair of the Alberta Pulse Growers Commission, and it is a pleasure to welcome you to our AGM here this morning. I'm a third-generation grain farmer from Nearlandia, Alberta, which is about an hour and a half northwest of here. I represent Zone 3 on the Alberta Pulse Growers Commission, and I'd just like to say that our vision is pulses on every farm, on every plate. I think it's pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. I think all of our decisions are guided by this vision that we want to have a profitable and viable pulse crop option for all farmers in Alberta. And we also, through our extension and education activities, want to see pulses as part of everyone's diet. So I'd like to call the meeting to order this morning and again welcome you and thank you for joining us. I'd like to acknowledge some guests that have joined us virtually as well as in person. We have representatives from some of the other provincial pulse organizations, including Saskatchewan Pulse Growers are here with us. We have representatives from our national organizations, including Pulse Canada, Grain Growers of Canada, as well as Alberta's other provincial crop commissions, and representatives of Marketing Council are here with us today as well. We appreciate your attendance and your support. Thank you to the other stakeholders who have of our organization who have taken the time to join us in our meeting today as well. As Leanne mentioned, if you are an eligible member, meeting materials including an agenda, meeting minutes, the annual report, candidate bios, election ballots, resolutions, and a voting card were provided when you registered in person. If you're joining us online, you will find this information available through your registration package and available on the voting site at www.crossroadscropconference.ca under the Alberta Pulse Growers menu. APG's provincial board is comprised of 12 farmer directors from across 5 zones in Alberta. At this time, I'd like to introduce APG's elected farmer directors who have represented you this year, and I will ask each of them to stand when I call their names. From Zone 1, we have Greg Stamp from Enchant, and Will Mueller, our first vice chair from Bow Island. Representing Zone 2, we have Peter Hoff of Gleason, and Kevin Oak, our second vice chair from Carmangay. And I would just like to note that Peter Hoff was a director until spring 2025 when he stepped back from his role. Representing Zone 3, myself, Shane Stridehorst from Nearlandia, and Chris Allum from Ardrossan. Representing Zone 4, Peter Constable of Spirit River, and Bev Wieben of Fairview. Representing Zone 5, Scott Keller of New Norway, and Robert Semeniuk, Smoky Lake. Our Director at Large for Beans is John Kolk of Picture Butte. And our Director at Large non-bean is Michael Bury from Manville. Listed here are the advisors who are elected by farmer members and represent farmers in each of the 5 zones across Alberta in 2024-25. Typically, we have 8 advisors per zone, and we also have non-voting advisors in some zones. This fall, APG had elections in all zones, and we welcomed new advisors into our organization. We look forward to adding your names to this slide for next year's AGM. We do have some vacancies in a few of our zones, so if you're interested in stepping forward as an advisor, please chat with us at this conference after the meeting and let us know. So I would just like to quickly acknowledge that early into this new fiscal year, APG unfortunately said goodbye to a strong pulse advocate and experienced pulse grower who was an active advisor in our organization. Harold Hagen, a lifetime advisor and former director of APG, passed away in early November. Harold held roles in the early years with APG as a commissioner, director on the provincial board. He traveled internationally with APG as well as representing us at Grain Growers of Canada. He was always a willing participant in APG events and meetings, and he will be missed. And I would just like to point to the really nice article in the recently released Pulse Crop News that would have just hit your mailboxes this week or last week. There's a nice article in memory of Harold. Alberta Pulse Growers is very fortunate to have this group of individuals working to help us to achieve our vision and our mission. And I would ask all the staff members that are present today, please give a wave so that the farmers and guests in the room can recognize you. I speak for the whole board when I say that we are extremely proud of this team and grateful for your work and your dedication and the efforts on behalf of the organization and the membership. So that brings us to the business portion of the meeting. Up on the screen is the agenda, and I would ask at this time for a motion to approve the agenda. Robert Semeniuk, thank you. Peter Constable, seconds, thank you. Is there any discussion? And if not, I will call for the vote and ask the registered eligible voters online to refresh your platform and cast your vote on the motion. And the voters in the room, please hold your voting cards high for the count. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Carried. So next we have the minutes of the January 28, 2025 meeting. These minutes are available in the meeting package for those in person and are available to those registered virtually. And I just ask people to take a moment to review those, and then I will ask for a motion to approve them. Scott Keller moves to approve. Thank you, Scott. Can I have a seconder? Chris Allam, thank you. Any discussion? If not, I will call for the vote. Online voters, please refresh your platforms and cast your vote. Those present, please raise your voting cards high. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Carried. The next item on the agenda is our reports, and we will begin this section with our APG highlight video for 2024-25. We continue to invest strategically in research, always trying to solve the root rot issues that affect our growers. We continue to advocate for farmers using different partnerships such as Grain Growers of Canada, Pulse Canada, Team Alberta Crops. Always trying to seek better transportation, better port infrastructure, resolving trade issues. And then the last thing that we've worked really hard at this year is to emphasize grower engagement, to bring forward the next group of leaders for the agriculture industry, and to communicate our successes and challenges to our farm members.
We do a really good job of focusing on pulses, not just in the health of your farm and your soil, but also in the health of the community, the people that consume them.
I think a lot of people don't realize how many pulses are grown in Alberta that we can use. I can use that food that I grow in my backyard, my fields, onto the farm table to feed my family.
Pulse just has some really great story on the sustainability side and on the health side.
We're the ones telling the world how wonderful our pulses are. We're doing this for a profit, but it just happens that pulses are the best crop you can grow for sequestering and taking nitrogen out of the air. The most environmentally friendly crop we can grow in Western Canada.
Alberta Pulse is doing a great job on governance, doing a great job on paying attention to finances and looking for value for money. That just doesn't happen accidentally. It happens when a board is aware and alert, working with staff that know what they're doing and are committed to the industry.
We're leading the way in agriculture altogether. We're trying to get research and policy at the forefront of everyone's concerns. We're trying to make sure farmers are also getting the information they need and want.
Many farmers are seeing that this be a great organization to join. We're glad to have them, and we need their voices at our table. So it just gives us guidance as directors. Look forward to having new faces all the time as advisors in the zone.
An opportunity to have representation across the zone, and we're very large. We go all the way up to Fort Million, up to Mara.
We need to share those resources that some of our long-term growers, our research scientists, our in-house agronomists, that they can share that knowledge with prospective new growers, first-time growers, second-time growers. Farmers just want to, know more about the risk that they're going to take growing pulses. Is it worth it? And can they mitigate some of their risk by doing certain things? And they can, and they can still have pulses in their rotation.
Making sure that they know if they need to know anything about pulses, we are the place to come.
Compared to 20 years ago and 30 years ago, what we're doing in pulses here in Alberta is just miles ahead of where we were. And that comes through a steady application of research, of extension.
I think we're doing some really cool things and putting out some really unique content that appeals to a wide demographic.
Most people should know by now, we have an APG app and has a wealth of information on there that you can ask an expert. You can look for agronomy.
In the last couple of years, we started doing these YouTube shorts, and it's a new, easy, accessible way of communicating. These modern forms of communication means that we can get information into the hands of growers quickly, timely.
I think the thing that excites me most is our extension to government right now. We've pinpointed who we're going to talk to.
I see Alberta Pulse Growers be a leader in that role, especially with Team Alberta Crops.
They're going to do an even better job with advocacy, not just Alberta pulse producers, but agriculture in general.
If you've turned on the TV lately, you're going to know that market access is huge and extremely important for Canada. We are an export nation. One thing I'm really proud of is being part of Pulse Canada and make sure we can export our crops all over the world.
Alberta Pulse Growers ties us to Pulse Canada and helps us realize what Pulse Canada actually does for us and how they proactively engage with foreign countries, buyers, and our own government.
Getting food from a farmer to someone in another country or an end user, even in North America, it is way more complex. The more we can understand that, I think the better job we can do of providing the product they want to buy.
On our Pulse Canada trade missions, we've got very good business relationships with some of the other countries and their businesses.
Getting people together in the same room creates trust. That's a lot of what Canadian food and agriculture is built on. We're trusted worldwide.
If they just need to fill a vessel, they'll go anywhere. But if they actually need something of quality, Canada's where they come.
APG helps people like us and other farmers grow the pulses that other countries want to buy by making sure that logistics work, that's transportation, and making sure all those systems flow from where we sell that pulse crop to the end customer, or at least to get it out of the country.
I'm thankful that we have organizations like the Alberta Pulse Growers to help us get our pulses grown and to markets.
We're here, just keep doing some hard, steady work, just like farming.
We're optimistic. I think farmers are always optimistic because next year is going to be better.
So before I get into my chair report to Michael, I know you're just dying to know if I was standing up straight in the faba beans, and I'm happy to report that yes, I was. So for those of you that have the annual report for 2024-25, you can refer to my chair's report on page 1. It is also available on the APG website, and I'll just make a few comments on a few things that were written there, and I guess it's going to sound a little bit repetitive after watching the video because a lot of the same things are going to come up again in my report here. So I would just like to say it was an honor to lead the Alberta Pulse Growers as we celebrated 35 years as a commission this past year. The theme for this year was Your Farm to the World, and given the events of this year, I think this theme was particularly fitting. Feeding the world begins at our farms, and APG once again made significant investments into research and plant breeding in order to increase productivity across all pulse acres. APG supported several new projects aimed at tackling the root rot issues that continue to challenge our pea and lentil growers. APG also invested in a field-scale faba bean fungicide trial, and as a faba bean grower, I am particularly excited about what we will learn from this project. Getting this knowledge and information and learning into the hands of growers is key, and so APG organized highly successful extension events, such as Back to Basics, for growers in zones 3 and 5. This event featured a blend of pea and faba bean agronomy, some pulse marketing, panel discussions, and a brief policy update. Stay tuned as similar events are being planned for 2026. Transportation presents major challenges in getting pulses from your farm to the world, and APG remains committed to achieving the best possible movement of our agricultural products. APG continues to advocate provincially through Team Alberta Crops and nationally through Pulse Canada and Grain Growers of Canada for more reliable transportation network, minimizing the impacts of labor disruptions and much needed improvements to port infrastructure. Canada needs more dependable transportation if we are to maintain our reputation as a reliable supplier of pulses to our international customers. The final step in taking pulses from your farm to the world involves market access, and of course, my report would be far from complete if I didn't acknowledge the tremendous advocacy efforts of APG and Pulse Canada in achieving the 100% tariff on yellow pea being lifted into the Chinese market and restoring tariff-free access to this critically important market. And I will say that this work is ongoing. Although pulses have not gathered headlines in the media the way canola has, I can assure our members that Pulse Canada has been relentless in its efforts to continually engage with our customers in China, as well as all relevant departments in the Canadian government. As Vice Chair of Pulse Canada, I traveled to Ottawa in October and China in November to participate in numerous meetings that I think helped in at least some small way lead to the positive announcement that morning of January 16. And as I said, the work is ongoing. I'm 100% certain that without this effort, this would not have come together. I'm also pleased to see that we're making significant progress toward securing market access for faba beans, chickpeas, and lentils into the Chinese market, again, all thanks to Pulse Canada's efforts. Pulse Canada remains actively engaged with India, where we face tariff challenges on several of our pulse crops. While these tariffs are a price support mechanism to support their farmers, and they are not directed at Canada, they still introduce uncertainty to the marketplace. Pulse Canada continues to explore many new opportunities in new geographic markets, as well as growing demand in diversifying existing markets. APG is also involved in many exciting diversification opportunities closer to home, which Leanne will highlight in her report. The common thread running through everything that I've highlighted here today is partnership and collaboration. Whether partnering with other provincial pulse organizations in plant breeding and research innovation, advocating provincially through Team Alberta Crops, or advocating nationally and beyond through Pulse Canada and Grain Growers of Canada, APG is leveraging investment and amplifying your voices at every opportunity. In closing, I would again like to thank and commend my fellow directors and the staff of Alberta Pulse Growers for their creativity, their energy, and their dedication. Thank you to this leadership. We can celebrate 35 years of growth as Alberta Pulse Growers and continue to bring your pulses from your farm to the world. That is my report. And now I'd like to invite the Chair of the Audit and Finance Committee, John Kolk, Director at Large for Beans, to present the financial report. John?
Thanks, Shane. On behalf of the board, I'm presenting the 24-25 financial statements, and there's always some question, what's the importance of audit and finance and actually presenting here for public presentation, how we've done over the last year. But we have a vision with Alberta Pulses on every farm, every plate. We've got a mission that's to lead through innovation and collaboration to add value for Alberta Pulse farmers. And we have values. Those are accountability, optimism, innovation, collaboration, and sustainability. And to execute that, we have to not only plan, budget, but we also have to show that we've done that. And when we look at our financial statements, that's the opportunity to show accountability through that process. Are we doing what we say we want to do, and are we working towards that? And so I think, even though for some of you, not Chris, but for some of you, financial statements are a little bit boring, they are an important part of accountability and transparency. And with that, I'd just like to go to our presentation. Please reference pages 12 to 26 in your Alberta Pulse annual report for more detailed information. So MMP LLP are APG's auditors, and the audit was completed for the fiscal year ending July 31st, 2025. The auditors presented the audit findings to the board October 28th, 2025, and I'm pleased to report that APG received a clean audit. As part of that, the Finance Committee does meet with the auditors pre-audit and post-audit, where we go into detail, review the management letter, and various other things. The auditors have supplied an independent and a qualified opinion based on the stipulation they can only audit the funds that APG receives from dealers through service fee collection. This statement is clearly identified in pages 13 and 14 in the independent auditor's report. I'd like to begin with the statement of financial position for the organization. Details are on page 15, and they're beginning with a summary of the statement of financial position, or the balance sheet, for the organization. And this is as of July 31st, 2025, last summer. And it's a comparative to the year before. APG's balance sheet includes the provincial office as well as the 5 zones. Each of the zones had their financial information presented to you if you were at a zone meeting this fall. We will focus on the totals for the 2025 of the zones plus the head office in this slide. Here are the comparative highlights. Our assets increased primarily due to increase in service fees found in cash and prepaid expenditures over the past year. Liabilities were reduced slightly from the previous year, as you can see, due to efficiencies in accounts payable and accruals. With member equity, APG has an accumulated surplus of $451,000, slightly lower than last year at the end of July 2025. With equity, APG saw a slight decrease in capital assets and experienced an increase in our reserves. Reserves received an additional investment. APG approved a number of research projects this past year, and that's led to an increase in our financial obligations on the contracts that we set aside. We make a commitment, we put monies, or if it's for a number of years, we put monies aside for that, and those are internally restricted reserves. The organization is beginning to also set aside future funding for our national organization, funding support and strategic programming such as the next cluster program investment opportunities. And you heard a number of the activities our national organization, Alberta Pulse Canada, is doing from Shane earlier. More detail on commitments and reserves can be found in note 8 and 9 on page 21 of the annual report. APG's assets plus equal liabilities plus equity, and you can see we have a healthy balance sheet as of July 31st, 2025. Moving to revenue and expenditures, or the income statement. The detail related to revenue and expenditures is on page 16. I think we can get that up, can we? On the bottom of what screen? There's a screen there, and there's a screen there. Hey, let me look at this one. No, that's still not up there. Okay. Oh, there we go. Fine. Thank you. Okay, there you can see it. Total revenue decreased from 6.4 million to 6.2 million, and expenditure slightly increased from 5.2 to 5.6 million. Thus leaving Alberta Pulse growers with a much smaller but still positive net of $562,000. This slide represents the distribution across Pulse crops for the service fees collected. Total service fees for 2024 were 5.6 million, up from last year at 5.2 million. So the P numbers, almost 60%. Lentils, pretty close to 25. That one moves up and down a bit more than some of the other ones. Beans around 13%, and then chickpea, faba beans, and soybeans come up towards the end. Peas are our primary source. Want to point out also our refund request rate. Alberta Pulse growers, along with most of our commissions, are refundable levy organizations. That means that people have the opportunity to pull back their dollars if they so choose to. That does give us a bit of a freeloader issue at some points, and it does move up and down. We monitor that as a board and continue to see that as an issue we want to pay attention to. think initially it was set up so that people could help hold commissions accountable. It sometimes seems like it's strictly something that's it's a financial decision for some growers, and the freeloading issue continues to be an issue for all of our commissions. I'm prepared to answer any questions on the statements and the financial information from the members. We also have our auditor, and maybe you can just wave, Chris Cholick from MMP, to address any audit questions. If you are online and want to ask a question, go to the question answer function and the staff will bring it forward for discussion. Or if you're in person, please raise your hand and go to a mic. We'll make our way to you. So if there's any questions, is there any questions? Not seeing any online.
There are currently no questions online.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, Chris, you got away with it again. How do you like that? I would encourage you to read the statement in detail in the copy of your annual report. If you have any questions, please do reach out either to a board member or myself. Chris will be here for a little bit yet, and reach out to us after the meeting. I would, though, like to thank the members of the Audit and Finance Committee and staff for their work on the committee and for the work of our auditors, MMP LLP. Thank you. And with that, we'll go over to our motions.
Thank you very much, John. So the motion will be to accept the Alberta Pulse Growers 2024-25 financial statements as John has presented them. Can I have a motion? John, thank you. Can I have a seconder? Robert Semeniuk, thank you. Is there any further discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. Please refresh your voting platform online, and those in the room, hold your voting cards high. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Carried. Next, we will appoint the auditor for 2025-26. And the motion will be to appoint MNP LLP as auditors for the 2025-26 fiscal year. Could I have a motion? Michael Bury, thank you. Peter Constable, seconds, thank you. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll call for the question. Please refresh your voting platforms online, and for those in the room, please hold your cards high. All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, John, and the rest of the Audit and Finance Committee for your work this year, and the staff as well. I will now ask Leanne Fishbook, our Executive Director, to provide a brief update on what we are focusing on for 2026. Leanne?
Thanks, Shane. So, well, celebrating 35 years over the course of time last year, one of the things that APG really focused on was an opportunity to revisit and revise our strategic plan. We developed it through the year, and the plan was adopted effective August 1st of 2025. So we have the following key strategic areas of focus for the organization. And we group a bunch of our activities around them. It's grow, move, use, and lead. So under grow is really about research and knowledge transfer, and it has always been a key cornerstone of APG's activity and investment. We are continuing investment in key projects that will advance producer innovation, such as reinvigorating a long-term investment in pulse breeding. In fact, if many of you have probably read, 2 weeks ago, the Global Institute for Food Security announced a key partnership, which included APG, our partners across the prairies, SPG and MPSG, as well as others in a project that accelerates the Canadian pea breeding programs through genomic selection. We will also be working with our provincial pulse partners across Canada to build the next policy, pulse research priority list for the next policy framework. And that will give us an opportunity to access perhaps some federal funding support for project investments. On the extension side, APG is formalizing a broader extension program, aiming to reach partners and work with educational institutions to help engage the next level of pulse producers that are coming up through the education system. So when you see these opportunities, please join us to learn more. We will also focus on outreach on various platforms, such as some of the ones that were mentioned in our video. And it's to leverage short, knowledgeable, and memorable messages about key pulse and farm information to audiences across platforms like Instagram, YouTube, the Alberta Pulse app, and other social media pathways so that we can build our social license with multiple audiences. Under the move section of our strategic plan, we're going to encompass the APG voice through advocacy work and more specifically focus on pulse issues as well as provincial and national platform work. Obviously, in Alberta, APG is the reliable voice for pulse advocacy provincially. And APG has already taken some actions to really elevate our advocacy opportunities this year. So this past November, we had an advocacy day provincially at the legislature. And directors had political touch points with 44 representatives, including 7 ministry meetings, and 19 meetings with 19 officials from the Alberta government and 25 representatives, including MLAs, deputy ministers, and high-level staffers, including our voices around the pulse challenges and sharing the opportunities for pulse farmers that complement Alberta's economic objectives. And I know there's some MLAs in the crowd today, so thank you very much. I know we did meet and see people at our events when we did some outreach, so it's nice to see you here again today. APG is also continuing to build a strong whole farm voice with our 6 other partners in Team Alberta Crops, so we call it TAC for short. The Team Alberta Crops is a collaboration between a group of 7 of us: Alberta Beekeepers Commission, Alberta Canola, Alberta Grains, Alberta Pulse Growers, Alberta British Columbia Seed Growers, Alberta Sugar Beet Growers, and the Potato Growers of Alberta. We work together to advance the grassroots policy and advocate on behalf of Alberta's crop and beekeeping sectors. This past September, APG helped lead the reinvigoration of what we call an agency agreement for the TAC partnership, and we're supporting a new shared staff member aiding in this partnership. So we think it's a great step to move forward with one collective voice for the cropping and beekeeping sector. With the geopolitical challenges that you've heard about, obviously, the Pulse voice had to be noticeable with elected officials in Ottawa. And critical work continues to have farmer voices assist with national advocacy through Pulse Canada. This also includes global engagement, and it will have continued business-to-business communication and conversations in markets where Canadian pulses have experienced limited access, and with Canadian pulse farmers and industry colleagues presenting. We're very pleased to learn of opportunities returning for pulses in important areas of the world, such as China, and we'll continue to encourage business-to-business engagement there and with other trading partners. Participation in other national organizations, such as Grain Growers of Canada, is also important as it allows our farmers to collaborate with other national counterparts and bring common issues to the forefront, helping to build a whole farm economic contributor voice. With Use, APG is focusing on what we can do provincially to put pulses on every plate, like we have in our vision. And this includes building engagement with chef and culinary programs and consumer platforms, as well as finding the best way to reach educators and health professionals. New this year, we have been working with School Sports Alberta to promote pulses through providing recipes on their website that will help fuel student sport and success and meet nutritional needs. APG is also working nationally through what we call the Bean Team. I swear that's the coolest name for one of the groups that we work with. And we're aiming to increase domestic bean consumption with Ontario, Manitoba, and Pulse Canada partners. So we're really excited to continue our work with the Bean Team. Under our lead section, it's all about leading by governing with excellence and really helping to strengthen our organization. And I think this is a really important strategy for a commission such as ours. Activities we're already focusing on include an important internal risk review. This step helps really build our organization to prepare and mitigate surprises that may surface with our internal processes. For example, we are looking to safely implement use of artificial intelligence into our processes and creating and working also to create a stakeholder strategy. So those are just some of the things under our risk review that we're really highlighting this year and working on. We're also continuing to foster strength in board governance and encourage continuous training for our provincial board representatives to help build their leadership capacity. So one day too, they can be up here on stage and be presenting to you in the membership. I'm a great believer that strategic plans are incredibly important, and they really do enable our organization to have a fence and draw those lines and fence lines to help keep APG directors and staff focused and very effective for what we want to accomplish for our membership. So it is also my duty to share our budget forecast for 2025-26, which was originally approved way back in time in June of 2025. And it's continuously reviewed and discussed during the year through our Audit and Finance Committee. So we recognize that from June 2025 to now, there have been some significant geopolitical events that will likely have an impact on our final budget when we hit the end of our fiscal year. And in discussion with the Audit and Finance Committee and the board, APG has actually chosen to stay on course. We haven't adjusted anything even with some of these challenges. We budget revenue across all pulse crops, and with multiple markets and with the environment of potential instability, we continue to really do this with conservative forecasting. APG, obviously back in June, did not forecast the length of time the market had remained closed with China, nor the opening of the market. And nor did we forecast the implementation of a 30% tariff on pea imports into India either. So with that in mind, we, as of still of June, we are estimating a revenue of $5.8 million from collection of our service fees. So that's at 0.75% of the cash sale of pulse crops. And the remainder of the revenue will actually come from other sources like interest and investments. We are also forecasting expenses of $6.3 million, and they are distributed along the areas of grow, move, use, and lead, as well as allocations for refunds and operations. So these are our budgets. The 4 strategic themes that I spoke about just earlier, I think most of our activities and engagement incur within those, and you can see on the pie chart that comprises about 88% of the total anticipated expenditure for the organization. With these numbers, and in general, we're forecasting, unfortunately, a $440,000 loss for the 2025 fiscal year. However, as you saw in an earlier slide, I want to remind the membership that APG has a very strong balance sheet, and we have planned and can withstand some losses due to fluctuations in the marketplace. And we've planned for coverage of multi-year expenditures with our savings so that it continues to help reinforce APG as a solid partner to invest with on projects and partner on initiatives. So that said, if things don't pan out, we are prepared to look at things and look at potential cost-cutting measures if warranted. So I am prepared at this point to address any questions related to the presentation that I have. If you have any, it would be great to hear them. And if not, like I said, we are around for the rest of the day and can dive deep into your greatest pulse questions if you don't wish to approach the microphone. So any questions for the moment? Neil, are you approaching the microphone to ask me a question?
I sure am.
Oh, okay.
As you all heard, the federal government has proposed shutting down of the Lacombe research station. And looking in your annual statement, you do have some projects that are coming through that research station. And I really can't understand why the federal government will do this, because these research stations have always brought, 10 times the money put into it in research. And agriculture is a huge part of our economy. And what my question is the Alberta Pulse Growers going to work with other commodity groups to probably persuade the government, or else have the provincial government step up and take over that very important work that's done at Lacombe?
Okay, thank you, Neil. So I think we are waiting to hear the full extent and get confirmation of exactly what centers are closing and what research is affected. Because this is such a recent event, we're sort of waiting to see where the chips fall and how much of the pulse research that we have is going to be directly affected. We are incredibly concerned with what has happened, and I believe we will be working moving forward should there be a response to the federal government through perhaps our national organizations, or working together across multiple commissions who are affected in providing a level of response for the moment. Yeah, we're just waiting for the moment to see where it goes. It is deeply concerning. There's a lot of excellent researchers that we engage with on a regular basis, as do other commissions. And it's unfortunate to see this happen to our research and innovation space.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions related to what I had just presented? And if not, I'm going to, in closing, express my thanks to the board for their dialogue and support this year, and acknowledge the very hard work of our staff. And they're absolutely dedicated and highly skilled. And we are very fortunate to have the collective knowledge and hands-on experience of them working for our growers and members. So thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to Shane.
Thank you very much, Leanne. So we are now moving on to item 6 on the agenda, which is new business, and this includes elections. APG has 2 positions open to the membership for election this year: the Director-at-Large non-bean and the Director-at-Large bean. Unlike the other director positions elected from the zones, these positions can be filled by members from anywhere across the province. The non-bean director represents all pulse growers in the province for all pulse crops. The Director-at-Large for beans must be a grower of dry beans and a voice for the dry bean industry in the province. These are 2-year director positions. Successful directors can complete a total of 8 years if returned to their positions at each election. I will now call up the nominations committee directors to run the election. First Vice Chair Will Mueller and second Vice Chair Kevin Oak.
Hello. First off, happy birthday, Marty. I believe it's Marty's birthday. At the regional meetings this fall, APG shared that the nomination deadline for the 2 at-large positions was January 15th, 2026. As of the 15th, APG received names for the 2 positions. Biographies are available in the AGM package and online with the meeting resources for those who are voting virtually. So, Jenny. We will be asking for nominations from the floor. To be eligible, you must have grown and sold pulse crops in the last 2 years. You must fill out a nomination form and have 3 members supporting your nomination. Staff have forms available for you if you are interested. The 2 nominees presented here today have submitted their nominations forms. They will be reviewed and can have their names stand for the election. It is my privilege to call for nominations for the position of Director-at-Large non-bean. This position represents all farmers in Alberta who do not grow non-beans. APG received 1 nomination, Michael Burry from Scott Keller. Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? Is there any other nominations? Okay, can I have a motion to cease nominations? I'll need a mover and a seconder. Chris and Greg, seconder. So please refresh your platform if you're voting electronically. Those in the room, hold your voting cards high. All in favor to cease nominations? And all opposed?
Okay, the motion's carried. It is my distinct pleasure and privilege to call for nominations for the position of Director at Large, Bean. So currently we have one nomination, and that is from Will Mueller to nominating John Kolk. But I will call for any other nominations. Again, any other nominations? Any other nominations? Seeing none, I will call for a motion to cease nominations. Okay, Michael Bury and seconder Greg Stamp. So I guess I will call for the question. All in favor of ceasing nominations? Any opposed? All right, the motion's carried. With that was a nice quick thing. Thanks for making it easy, and we'll let our chair carry on then.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks, Will. And congratulations, John and Michael. Welcome back. Alberta Pulse Growers will now discuss resolutions. Last year at the AGM, there was one resolution. This slide shows the resolution as it was presented. Resolution number 1, 2025 focused on RVT data table commitment, stating that APG commit to continued support of the data tables published in the Alberta Seed Guide, as well as annually supply data from the APG RVT trials to the Alberta British Columbia seed growers for use in their guide. The APG board reviewed and accepted the resolution at the March 2025 provincial board meeting, agreeing to continue the practice for as long as APG has oversight to the Pulse RVT program. APG has always shared this information with seed growers for publishing in the seed guide. APG also publishes this information live on our APG app, typically in early November, once we have finished reviewing the statistics. I'd now like to ask APG Zone 4 Director Bev Wieben and Director at Large non-Bean Michael Bury to lead the 2026 resolution discussion.
Thanks, Shane. I'd like to thank Shane for doing a great job. And this is his last meeting, so that's my 2 bits. And I was on the resolutions committee, and I always put forward resolutions, and then I was told that I can't speak to resolutions, so pretty well. I don't know if I'm going to do this again, but anyways, well, that's my 2 bits for the day again. So thanks again for having me here today. Every year, the resolutions are put forward at the zone meetings, and that for issues that are for consideration for the board. Resolutions that are passed here today will become an item of discussion at the provincial board, where the APG can choose to act on the request. As with all resolutions that have been passed by the membership, they will be considered at the convenience of the board. So in the end, it's up to the board to decide how they go forward. The process of resolutions began at the fall meetings, and
at the fall regional meetings. And the deadline for resolutions was January 15th. And APG received 4 resolutions during the fall meetings. No, 2 during the fall meetings and 2 for consideration by the deadline. And the resolutions committee discuss as the words, the wording, and with the movers and the seconders if there's any changes. And upon at the committee level, there was one resolution that the mover and the seconder decided that with new revelations that they would remove their resolution. So they both, it wasn't the board that did it. It was the mover and the seconder decided that they would pull their resolution. We do not accept resolutions from the floor during the meeting. And this is up the slide. We'll see how we're going to go about things today. We will invite the mover and the seconder of the resolution to come forward. And then the mover and the seconder will have a chance to open in favor of their resolution. And if there's any opposition, we will let the opposition speak. If there is none, then we will move the question and I will be the one that'll call the question. So anyways, we'll move on to resolution 1/2026. And it's about highway speed proposed changes. And it's worded, I'm only going to do the part that says be it resolved. Everybody else has to read the rest of it. Be it resolved that Alberta Pulse Growers work with like-minded commissions through Team Alberta Crops on a submission to the Government of Alberta about unintended consequences to agriculture, particularly during the busy farming periods on specific corridors, and continue to monitor the proposed increase of highway speeds. Moved by Rudy Warwa and seconded by Neil Gorda. So, Rudy, do you have anything to say in the opening?
If I may interject, please, I'm Neil Gorda from
Oh,
Queendon.
sorry.
And Rudy was not able to make this meeting, so he had asked me to be the mover for this resolution at this meeting. And I've got John Mako to be our seconder for this resolution.
Sure. Can that be taken down? Do you want to open, Neil?
Yes, of course. You know, you have to feel for anybody that has to farm near a divided highway and try to get across. It's a challenge, and it's a bigger challenge, especially on weekends. And I don't have to do that, but Rudy was having that problem. And not only is it that it's hard for equipment and farmers to get across the highway, but many of these intersections are very, very dangerous, and many lives are lost. So I just want to say that if you are going 110 miles an hour, kilometers an hour, you are going at 110 feet per second. And if you're going, and you all know this, that at 110, everybody's doing 120, many are. So if you're going 120, you're going 109 feet per second. And at 130, if we move it up to 120, many people will be going 130, you're going at 118 feet per second. Now, the reaction time, the time to get across the highway, the site that you need to get across that, especially with heavy equipment, is many seconds. And it creates a huge danger to everybody with these increased speeds. So that's the main reason why Rudy wanted to put this resolution forward. And I totally agree with that.
John, would you like to?
Yes, I'm John Mako, and just to further to Neil's comments, just in our area in the intersection of Highway 16 and secondary 855, we've had 2 fatalities this last summer that occurred within the same week on on a beautiful summer days that the sun is shining, and you just can't, with the volumes of traffic and everything that are going on, it's unless the highways are changed to be able to handle the higher speeds, we feel that it's not a good idea to increase these speeds. The highway construction is one thing, and just even the condition of the highways is another. I'm sure many of you are driving, and the highways, these are not the German autobahns where you can cruise at unrestricted speeds. There's potholes and frost heaves and everything all across the highways, and you increase the speeds, and there's bound to be problems happening in terms of accidents and everything else. So this is why the government should keep these things in mind before they go willy-nilly in terms of increasing the allowable speeds.
Thanks, John. So is there anybody willing to come forward and speak in opposition to this resolution? Is there anybody online that wants to speak in opposition?
There's no opposition online.
Okay. If not, I'll ask Neil, do you want to close, or you just waive your closing?
If I may, not only is it increasing the chances of accidents and mistakes, you and all know that when you go from 110 to 130, your fuel consumption goes up by 20 to 30%. And if you go that across the millions of vehicles that are on the road every day, that's putting a more amount of fuel that is consumed, which is not necessary. But that's just a small point that should be taken in consideration. And also just the safety and the amount of risk farmers take to cross these highways is a huge concern to the whole farming community. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. John? In closing?
I'll waive my comments for the previous ones.
Thank you. So I guess I'll call the question that is the question will be is who's in favor with their, just the members can vote, I guess, with their voting card. All in favor of the resolution? I guess opposed? I would guess it's carried. Thank you. It's Bev's turn.
Okay, we're going to go to resolution number 2. The elk responder network to include standard crop. Okay, so please review the resolution on screen, and if you have it in your meeting package. And for those of you online, it is available at the crossroadsconference.ca website. I will only repeat the be it resolved part. Be it resolved that the Alberta Pulse Growers request that the Alberta Ministry of Forestry and Parks use the elk responder network, including standing crop, and no longer be restricted to solely stored crop. Moved by Jenny Seward and second by David Pepnick. So Jenny's online.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So a little bit of background on this is we've had some large elk herds enter well, all fields, but specifically pea fields this past summer. And through foraging and bedding, did quite a bit of damage in a crop that was still a ways away from desiccation. And so a little bit of history on the Wildlife Management Responder Network that the Alberta government brought in 2024 was specifically to deal with problem bear and elk. 2025, we had an update to include elk in the program. However, we have found out that this management responder network where we can employ some mitigation tactics does not include standing crop. And so we had a producer from Zone 1 who received significant damage from a large elk herd. And so what we're looking at asking is just that we look at standing crop and employing some of those mitigation tactics to standing crop, because the current wildlife responder program, specifically for elk, only applies to stored crop. So we're just looking at asking the network to update, as we found this can be quite a problem. So that's all I've got. I think David is in the room to add a few more comments. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Can't hardly see because of the lights. David, are you? Might have to go to the other mic if that one's not on.
Maybe.
Okay.
Hello?
Yep, that's good. Thank you.
Maybe I'll just move to the other. I'll just move to the So yeah, like Jenny had said, the main thing that we're looking at in this resolution is to make it more proactive than reactive on how we can use the wildlife management responder network. So I think Jenny said, yeah, what we needed to say. And yeah, thank you for your consideration on the resolution.
Okay, is there anyone who is prepared to speak in opposition to the resolution? Please raise your hand and or go to the microphone. All right. I don't see anybody at the microphone yet. I'll return to the movers. Jenny, do you have anything further you want to say to the resolution?
I think perhaps just to add that, relying on crop insurance coverage after the fact doesn't always add up. So that's another reason why we brought this resolution forward.
Okay. David, do you have any final comments? Okay. I will call for the question. All in favor? Okay. Anybody opposed? Okay. All right, it is carried. All right, we'll move on to resolution 3. Again, I'll only be reading the be it resolved part. Be it resolved that the Alberta Pulse Growers Commission throughout Team Alberta and Grain Growers of Canada urges the Government of Canada and AAFC to 1, commission and publicly release an independent comprehensive net benefit analysis, the full cost benefit and social economic of net zero pathways along the 2030 to 2050 emission targets for agriculture before further commitments or program expansions. 2, to ensure analysis transparency assesses costs to farmers and society, measurable benefits, example, the climate risk reduction and co-benefits, impacts on competitiveness and food affordability and realistic feasibility. 3, to make future agriculture climate policies contingent on demonstrating clear net positive outcomes for the sector and Canadians with strong producer input, voluntary incentive-based approaches that are adequately costed and funded before implementation. Further, be it resolved that the resolution be forwarded to the Minister of Agriculture, Agri-Food, relevant federal departments, provincial ministries, and allied farm organizations for support and advocacy. Moved by Matt Miklik and seconded by Zoltan Yarmy. Are they, if you can make your way to the mic to speak.
Hi there. I'll keep it simple. A lot of conversation in our zone about the messaging coming from the government and the policy being put forward, and a lot of the environmental and social license conversations, and how that's influencing the policy in now and in the future. We didn't feel that there was a true impact analysis being done at the farm level, whether it's economic or whatever else. The farmers were not truly being considered in a lot of these decisions. The conversation is around market access and what other markets are looking for, but we don't know if they have a true understanding about what this policy is going to impact economically at the farm gate. To keep it simple, I guess. So, thank you.
Okay. Zoltan, is he here?
I think Matt pretty much summed it up. I think it pretty much speaks for itself.
Okay. Is there anybody in opposition to speak to the resolution? Is there anybody online that wants to voice any opposition? Seeing none, I will call for the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion is carried. Shane, we'll bring you back to the podium.
Thanks, everyone, for participating. This is our part of our democracy.
Thanks, Bev, and thanks, Michael, and thank you also to the members who have discussed and brought forward resolutions for consideration this year. So is there any other new business that needs to come to before the organization today? If so, please move to the working microphone and remember to introduce yourself. And I guess, Nevin, is there anybody online with a question?
Not thus far.
Okay, well, and I guess as Leanne mentioned earlier, that we will be around throughout Crossroads and are willing to and happy to have conversations about all things pulses. So at this point, I'd like to turn this over to Will Mueller, APG's first vice chair, for one of the last items on the agenda.
Your binder. Okay, so I got asked to speak about 3 individuals today. Peter, if you're in the room today, could you maybe stand up? Peter Hoff. There you are. Peter is leaving the board. Chris and Greg are over there. If you guys could stand up and give a wave. Thank you. So last night I told myself I'd write a nice speech for these people, And then Greg asked me to go to a Flames game or an Oilers game. So I decided I'm going to write the speech right after the game. So this morning, of course, I fell asleep after the game. But this morning, I looked at my paper and all I had was 2 words written down. And I don't know if it's going to be good enough. It was just good riddance typing. Joking, of course. Where do I begin? I'll start with Peter Hoff. A Zone 2 director from Gleason, Peter joined APG 3 years ago. Peter came to the board from the zone where he had spent a number of years previously as an advisor, and he continues that role today. His interests focused on research and also providing thoughtful advice, guidance on breeding programs. He spent many years on the APG Research Committee reviewing projects, as well as a short time in the Prairie Pesticide Minor Use Consortium. Peter decided to step away as a director this last summer and we wanted to recognize him for his contributions today. I had the opportunity to not only be on the board with Peter, but also the research committee. Peter often gave good reason and spoke about things in a more practical term. Having Peter on the board at the same time as me often led to a lot of great discussion. Often we'd get random batches of research projects, as Jen and your group know, sometimes 50 at a time. Someone like me is often pushing crazy projects, and Peter would balance me out a lot. I had a tendency to lean towards the sci-fi alien projects about GMO, CRISPR, and anything super unpractical at times, and Peter would really make me think about it. So this often led to great conversation. So I thank you for that, Peter. His friendly attitude was a huge asset to the board, and I loved how he was never afraid to bring up his opinions. During strategic planning with Peter, we shared something deep about ourselves. Peter shared that he loved meetings. Peter left the board for health reasons. We know it was an easy choice for him because he loves meetings so much. But what he doesn't know is that we loved having Peter on our board as well. So thank you. Chris Allen from Zone 3, director, is completing a maximum of 9 years with APG, so he's terming out. We have a 9-year max. Chris joined APG and volunteered for a number of committees during his time in the organization, but truly provided in-depth feedback to work as APG on the business risk management for our farmers members. Chris was also selected as a member of the Farm Implement Board. Chris has enjoyed dabbling in outreach, even hosting Taste Alberta's Feast in the Field, bringing foodies to the farm to enjoy Alberta-grown barbecue. Chris has been a farmer rock star on APG's mission of getting pulses onto the plate. Chris is a sharp-witted individual who never actually seemed to surprise me. When you think Chris isn't paying attention, think again. He's always paying attention. Always very opinionated and willing to get answers on farmer issues that would have been kept quiet. One meeting with Chris and you'll understand why he's on the board. Chris, thank you. Chris, you often think you're being pushy with your opinions, but often it's exactly what we needed to hear. Thank you for being the individual you are, and I know I'll see you in other committees doing the good work in the future. So please thank you, Chris. Greg has represented, Greg, Zone 1 is also terming out 9 years, so yeah, it's a long time. Greg has worked at APG research and marketing committees, providing feedback on projects as well as offering his time to be focused nationally, bringing the Alberta pulse growers' voice to Pulse Canada table. Greg has represented Canadian pulse farmers internationally in India, China, and represented pulse farmers in large multinational food producing sharing the story of growing sustainably produced and nutritious pulses. Greg, so I guess I'll add my insight here. Greg is someone I actually went to college with. So we sort of drifted apart and the board actually brought us back together. His connections in farming are very strong. He's a well-known farmer advocate, even without pulse growers. I've watched Greg do very well at his own farm. He's always been a step ahead of agriculture field in many ways. Greg has numerous connections through his own farm for a seed business. So him on the board was a huge asset. He was advocating farming well before any of us even needed him to do it. The board is a natural fit. Greg, not only is Greg a huge asset to the board, but I would say a huge asset to agriculture. Thank you for everything you do, Greg, and thank you for always thinking outside the box. Greg has said he's going to take a step back from commissions for a bit. I give Greg 1 year tops. So please thank you if we get a round of applause for Greg. Oh boy. We actually recognized all these people yesterday at the board meeting and received a gift of appreciation at that time. And next, I'd like to actually thank Shane, who is leaving us as chair, but he will remain on the board if you were wondering. So Shane, I'd personally like to thank you for your time as chair. You seem to fit the role very well, and you managed to keep us through every meeting on time, while also giving us plenty of time to talk. Your time here is greatly appreciated as chair, a job no one, not even me, would ever like to do. You did it with grace, and I cannot be happier to have been under your wing as a vice. Pushing me into roles is often the best thing for someone like me, and you did it very well. I believe you are in line to be chair of Pulse Canada. I know they'll appreciate your time leading their board and pointing them in the right direction. You might have had your hands full with some of those Saskatchewan guys, though. Thank you very much. I know we will continue to have a great relationship moving forward. We could please.
Thanks, Will, for making us all laugh here this morning. And thank you so much, Peter and Greg and Chris, for your contributions to the organization. We definitely will miss you, but we'll stay in touch. So we're getting close to the end of the agenda for today. One thing I would just like to note is that we are excited to welcome back Scott Keller from Zone 5 for another 3-year term. So congratulations, Scott. And we're also pleased to welcome 2 new directors effective today. Joe Rowbottom from Drumheller, representing Zone 2, and Jenny Seward from Foremost, representing Zone 1, who joined us virtually today. We're very excited to have you guys join the board and look forward to your contributions and insights as we go forward. So as has been mentioned at the close of this meeting, I will be completing my 3rd of a maximum 3 years as chair of APG, and I would like to thank my fellow directors again and thank all the staff for making it a wonderful opportunity, a wonderful learning experience, and it has been a pleasure to lead this organization. And I would just like to point out that Allison Amater, actually a couple of years ago, she told me that the more you put up your hand and the more you get involved, the more rewarding the experience is. And Allison, you definitely were not wrong about that. So thank you for that little push that you gave. So yeah, it really is an honor to represent farmers, to represent an industry that you're passionate about at a provincial level, a national level, and especially at an international level. It really is an honor. And therefore, I would like to encourage anybody that is interested in getting involved in a commission to talk to any of us at Crossroads this week. Look us up online after the event and look for ways to get involved, because it truly is a rewarding experience. And I want to encourage anybody to do that. So with that, my last task as chair of Alberta Pulse Growers, I declare this meeting adjourned.